Hey there, YouTube. Welcome to Monday's edition of The Breakfast Club. I'm Got That Funk. I'd like to thank you for joining me. I'm going to jump straight into it. Should Bernie Sanders contest the convention this July in Philadelphia? Personally, I understand why Bernie is going to do that, or so far anyway, that seems to be his intention to do that. It also seems to be the case that a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters are organizing to protest the convention. And in general, I'm always in favor of peaceful protests. I think demonstrating is one of the most fundamentally important democratic rights that people have. And I'm always for greater participation in democracy, whether that's in the voting booth or on the street demonstrating, as long as it's peaceful and constructive. And I do feel a little bit of concern because I think the media in particular will probably spin the demonstrations as just a bunch of spoil sports who couldn't get their way. And I think they're going to spin Bernie's plea for superdelegates the same way. And you can make a strong argument. My friend Zonstar mentioned to me on Facebook a couple of weeks ago that a contested convention would be the worst possible result because it would widen the divisions within the party and so on, and make it more likely, therefore, for Donald Trump to basically skate his way to the presidency. Well, I agree and disagree. I mean, it will make the divisions in the party more evident, but those divisions exist whether we iron over them with a lot of confetti and smiles or not. And I don't think that the Hillary Clinton campaign seems sufficiently cognizant of the fact that they need to reach out to Bernie supporters with policy, and that by doing so they might obviate the need for a contested convention. They also might mitigate against any real negative backlash with protesting, and they are not going to, in my opinion, alienate a lot of independent voters in the process of doing that. In fact, I think the opposite is true. I think there's a modern mythology that suggests that people who are registered as independent are somehow in the political middle between Democrats and Republicans. I don't think anything could be further from the truth. I think some people who are registered as independent lean more to the left, and some people who are registered as independent lean more to the right, but many of them like ideas from both sides of the political spectrum and don't necessarily carve them up, themselves up in terms of left or right. But this idea that independents are all in the middle between left and right, I just think is false. I think people who register as independent, by and large, register as independent because they don't want to have an R or a D next to their name. They don't want to be part of the two-party system. They want to feel like their mind and their choices are their own, and therefore they don't pick a side. That way they feel that they can choose between sides if needs be without feeling obligated to follow the side that matches the letter next to their registration. That's my opinion. I could be wrong, but that's certainly been my observation. A lot of people that I know who are left-leaning people are registered independent. I do know some people who are right-leaning people who also register as independent, but more people for sure that I know who are independent registered lean to the left. And so I think this idea that for Democrats, in order to win the presidency, they have to campaign in the primary season to the left and then pivot to the right toward the general election. I don't think that's true at all. I think, if anything, we've already got a Democratic Party which is, in the broader political sense, very centrist. So pivoting to the right would actually make them a right-wing party. I think pivoting to the left is the only way to go. I think that's where the most support is, and I think it would negate any need for a contested convention. I don't understand why, at the moment anyway, it seems to me that Hillary and her campaign don't want to budge when it comes to the platform suggestions. They seem to want to try to burn Hillary supporters out and scare them into submission with the thought of a Donald Trump presidency. And I've said this for months, about 4 or 5 months ago on my own channel I said, and I'm standing by this statement. I'm very worried that if it actually comes down to a general election between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, that Donald Trump will win. And people will say, oh, Paul, that's because people like you can't vote for Hillary. Well, you know what? It would really depend on who her vice presidential pick is to me, and whether or not she adopted any of the more progressive platform ideas that Bernie Sanders has been promoting in his campaign. If they did adopt some of those platform initiatives, and I actually believe she was going to make an effort at seeing them through, and or she had a decent vice presidential candidate that I thought I could get behind, like maybe Elizabeth Warren, for example, I would consider voting for Hillary with a lump in my throat. If she doesn't do that, if she doesn't pick a progressive VP, if she doesn't pick some progressive policies as some kind of concession to the massive amount of support that Bernie's got in his campaign, despite the fact that he was up against, a political operation of monumental proportions, I think Bernie acquitted himself very well in the time frame that he had. And I think there's an awful lot of support for the policies and the direction that Bernie wants the country to go in. So I don't understand why the Clinton campaign is so reticent, seemingly, to pivot that direction. And it really just reinforces a lot of the unfortunate stereotypes and presumptions I have about Hillary and what kind of politician she actually is. I actually think she's more to the right than she is to the left. Anyway, last but not least, I just want to finish this video by saying, if Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton face off in a general election, and Hillary Clinton wins the election, everyone will universally say that it was because Hillary Clinton was the better candidate. If, on the other hand, Hillary and Donald Trump face off in a general election, and Donald Trump wins fair and square, how many people are going to say it was because Donald Trump was the better candidate? Only the people who voted for him. Right? Democracy only works when everybody goes out and votes, and people have been saying for a long time that a higher turnout favors the left-wing candidate. And I think that tends to be true. And I also think that if whether there's a high turnout or not, if Donald Trump wins the presidency, that's only because he got more votes. Now, getting more votes in 2016 doesn't mean more people liked you. It means, in this particular comparison, Trump versus Clinton, more people hated Hillary than hated Trump. That's what we're faced with this year, if it's Trump versus Hillary. And that's why I hope that Bernie actually does contest the convention, successfully managing to turn over the superdelegates. But that is pure fantasy. I think it's more likely that I will win the lottery. Having said that, I can't blame the man for making his pitch and for standing up for what he said he believed in the whole time, which is a certain set of ideals and principles and a direction that he thinks the country should go in. This is Bernie's only shot, and I don't blame him for taking it. I just hope that the media doesn't spin it as some sort of wrecker, because I think if Trump does beat Hillary, everyone's going to point their finger at Bernie and say, it's all your fault, it's all your fault. No. If Hillary loses to Donald Trump, it's because it was Hillary Rodham Clinton. And there are lots and lots of people who hate Hillary and have hated Hillary for a long time. It has always been her Achilles heel. Lots of people, including myself, don't trust Hillary. And I would have thought that trust is a fundamental requirement for the presidency of the United States. So I really hope, frankly, that Bernie manages to flip the superdelegates, because for me that would solve the problem. But if not, I hope that myself and everyone else who was a Bernie supporter will at least try to do whatever you can to make sure that Trump doesn't get the presidency. But I won't like doing that unless Hillary does pivot to the left. So what do you guys think? Is a contested convention the worst of all possible results? What would be the best outcome of a contested convention? Even let's say Bernie contests the convention, but he obviously doesn't get the nomination. What would be the best case scenario for that eventuality? How could that possibly play out without hurting the Democrats' chances for the White House? Just curious. I want to thank you guys for watching this video. JJ Talks, I'm pretty sure, will be on The Breakfast Club tomorrow. And I look forward to seeing what you guys have to say in the comments section. I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.